All right, we're back. I do apologize for the hiccup. We are here. There were some technical difficulties, but we got those ironed out. We're going to start over one more time for the one time. Usually I just continue on, but only a small group of you were seeing anything, so I apologize for that. Let's go ahead and open with prayer, and then we're going to get right into it, right? Dear God, thank you for today. Thank you for the mistakes. Thank you for the shortcomings, Lord, because they only reprove and reproach and grow us, Father. And we thank you for blessing us with this opportunity right now to give thanks to you, to give praise, glory, and honor to you, Lord, to live in America, to live in a time such as this. We live in the greatest time known to man, a time where you are soon to return, God. And we just thank you for this moment to share truth with those that are listening. And we give you praise, glory, and honor. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. All right. One more time for the one time. We're going to get right into it. And like I was saying earlier, there is a pattern that just keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. And most people don't catch it because most people are NPCs. Most people are blind. Most people don't listen. Most people don't read. Most people don't do anything other than what they want or what they're told. Honestly, it's really people are doing what they are told, not necessarily what they want or think they want or think that they're doing at all. They're programmed. And then something happens. Boom. Hits you like a ton of bricks out of nowhere. And people are shocked. What's happening? What's going on? And then the system that is creating this mess, it moves in and it responds to your shock and awe. A new policy, a new law, a new rule, something comes up that's new from them, that's new to us, but also strange to us because it takes away from what we know. And every time it's sold the same exact way. It's for your protection. It's for your safety. It's for the greater good. It's for the American people. You're not pro-America if you don't support this or like this or want this or whatever reasoning they come up with, that's what they hit you with. But rarely do we stop and ask, what else comes with it? So from Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse 11, it says, because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily. See, I'm going to stop right there. You know, you're supposed to have a speedy trial. You know, the Sixth Amendment. They say that America wasn't founded on Christian values and morals. Because a sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of the men is fully set to them to do evil. It makes people angry and want to act out when the system fails or when the system creates something that they think is going to benefit us, but really and truly it's just an encroachment upon our rights. It infuriates people. For example, I have the perfect example. I see you guys watching from different platforms. Epstein. I say the word and instantaneously disdain comes over you. Why aren't they doing anything? Why aren't they getting justice for these people? We're allowing these evil. The system does that stuff by design because they want you to act out a character so they can take more from you. Because if you act out a character, they get to make a new law and make you a criminal for doing so. And when it does, you start to ask questions. You are watching TimberTalk, navigating the political force. We don't take things from face value here. We break them down into little tiny pieces, maybe wood chip size, and then we cut through it and we get going. That's just the way it's supposed to be. And before we get into the thick of things, can we please address some of these silly political people that are running around saying really dumb crap? And today, the person that's on the chopping block today is Miss Laura Loomer. And I'm thinking of adding this to the show to give some more lightheartedness away from the seriousness of these stories. And I have some great stories for you today. So please just lock in with me. And I promise you, I will share something with you don't know, and maybe even give clarity on things that you do know. But Laura Loomer, she's a political activist and a media face with, used to be with InfoWars and Project Veritas. and she ran for Congress twice in Florida and lost twice. This woman's a loser. She is, and yeah, I'll just let it speak for itself. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and pull this up for you. This is a tweet from Laura Loomer. Now, I don't know about you. Hopefully, most of you can read. But this is Laura Loomer. Let's look at what Trump says. Here, let me pull it up over here so I can actually see it for you guys. Let's look at what Trump says, and then let's look at Miss Laura Loomer's response to what Trump has said. And it's completely asinine, right? And we're supposed to be the party of values and morals. So Trump says, Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. President Donald J. Trump. And to which Laura Loomer says, President Trump says what everyone is thinking. He's right. He shouldn't be sad when bad people die. And then in the same breath, she says, the videos of sick people celebrating and gloating over Charlie Kirk's death make me physically ill. It's enough to make you want to leave your house when you see how normalized this hatred is on the left side. Ma'am, you're doing the same thing. You are a fool, Laura Loomer. You're doing the same thing because how you feel about Charlie Kirk, there are people that feel the same way about Robert Mueller. Now, personally, I didn't like Robert Mueller. I think he did a lot of shady things because I could see truth. But some people feel the same about Charlie Kirk. I'm not justifying their hatred, just like I'm not justifying your hatred and you spewing stupid stuff. We are supposed to be better than that. How can we be better than that if we're promoting the same type of behavior? Oh, it's not the same. Yeah, Robert Mueller was actually evil. Evil to you, just like Charlie was evil to others. Laura Loomer, you have to detach yourself from how you feel and see things through clear glasses. You're looking through this rose-colored lens that you portray yourself as a MAGA and a conservative and a Republican. Conservatives don't wish death on people. Conservatives don't get up and say, I'm glad he's dead. You know, the Jews were glad when Jesus was dead. Jesus did nothing wrong, but they were glad. There's a lot of people that get glad when someone passes away because everyone, no matter how good or bad you are, has haters. And we have to rise above that, be better than that. We can't be better than that if we're doing the same crap. President Trump is President Trump. He does what he does. He's been the same person since he's gotten to the public eye. Laura Loomer, you're promoting yourself as something that Trump is not. Trump is not a conservative. Never said he was. Trump is not a Republican. Never said he was. Trump, if you remember, was a career voting Democrat, although he did vote other sides. He was something akin to a moderate, a JFK moderate, if you will, where he saw good in both sides. Conservatives are not moderates, and Laura Loomer is not a conservative. But that's enough of that trollop. We're going to move on and get into the woods here. So our first story today here is the Takedown Act. This is a recap, a follow-up of a story I mentioned last year about this act moving into place, and politicians were saying, if you make funny AI videos of us, we're going to sue you and you're going to jail. Yeah, this is a follow-up of that. So this follow-up story is crazy because they finally got somebody with this act because it did pass. And there's a real case behind it now. And a 37-year-old man from Ohio got his neck on the chopping block. James Strahler, I think is how you pronounce it, the second. He's become one of the first to be charged under the new federal action targeting AI abuse. Now, if you remember earlier, I said that the government, when something happens, they make laws because they respond to how you react, and they make these laws so they can control things and change things. I have a perspective on this that I'll share at the end of this segment. that some of you might agree with, some of you might not, but that's between you and your creator. I don't care how you feel. I'm going to share the opinion. According to the Justice Department, he ran a calculated digital harassment campaign, which harassment is illegal. And this is what got him on the radar in the begin with. But he was using more than 100 AI tools that he created fake explicit images of real people with. This guy is not too smart. He's a 37-year-old dummy. Probably is about as smart as Laura Loomer, but at least she's wise enough to not put explicit imagery out there for people to use as a weapon. She just says people should lose their lives, but I digress. But this man then turned around after creating this and weaponized it, right? And at least 6 women were his targets, where he used images that the coworkers had sent him over the years of working with him, and he used those images to get accurate depictions. And then he turned around and threatened families, and demands were made. So now not only is this man harassing, he's holding things hostage for people's public images. He is quite literally hitting at a Fourth Amendment violation here, because I have the right to be secure in my person, my personal effects and papers, right? He's now abusing that by using AI to create something that was not true, a fictitious story. And he was threatening them to get them to send more images or the harassment would continue. And it went too far. Well, it didn't stop there, because it did go too far on that end, but it didn't stop. He kept going. Federal investigators say he also fabricated explicit content involving minors. Now, I get a sour taste in my mouth when I think about people doing things to, against, or showing minors in a negative light because they're minors. They can't consent. They don't do anything to anyone really, truly, and you're a grown man. But he was taking them and morphing their faces onto bodies and and creating disturbing images, hundreds of them, and posted them across abuse sites. Now, these abuse sites, you know what they are. You know, the pedophile sites, the places where these people meet up to stare at little children and watch videos of little children doing things that little children shouldn't be doing. Yeah, he was posting them there. Now, why this law ultimately exists is it is now being used as a way to show clear examples of why it should have existed in the first place. The Takedown Act is being pushed forward because of people like this guy. The focus is cracking down on AI-generated deepfakes, non-consensual explicit content, and digital exploitation. But ultimately, the bigger picture here is you have to step back first and take a look. No one is defending what this man did. And I have to preface with that. I'm not defending what this man did, but we have to take this 1,000-foot step back and really dial in and look at what's going on. Every time something like this happens, a new law follows. So we have the Takedown Act, which was created because these politicians were complaining about people making funny images of them doing dumb stuff. You're in the public. You have no privacy outside of what you do inside your home. And if that information gets out and becomes public, it becomes a part of your persona. You have no privacy in the public, right? Especially as a public official. But new laws always end up following. And this is where I give my opinion, right? And I want you guys to follow me here because it might sound some type of way that you might not agree with, but I do not condone what this evil, sick person did at all, especially because it involved minors. I don't like that he did it to adults. I don't like that he held people hostage digitally, so to speak. And I don't like that he was harassing people, but especially the children. Things start to shift when individuals commit evil acts, right? They should be punished for it, right? There's no question there. I don't disagree that they should be punished, but the pattern matters. And the pattern is what is starting to unfold with our federal government. Every incident becomes justification for broader control. The more control the federal government takes, the more they encroach on your rights. Oh, but Lumberjack, We got to get these people in check. And the only way to do that is put them in jail. Your duty as a citizen in this society is to make sure these people stay in check. You don't necessarily need a law to check these people. If you see something, say something. There's already laws against child exploitation. There's already laws against creating lewd content. People have been doing it long before AI ever existed. There's laws already in place, but now the law specifically says AI, which really, if you don't look at it like I do, you're going to see it as, oh, it's just helping the people. But when you look at it through a lens of clarity, you start to see it as, hey, they could say that you're breaking the law even though you're not, just because you made a funny meme. No nudity, no showing of body parts, no minors, just made a funny meme of Donald Trump or what's that, pencil neck Schiff. You're making funny memes of these people. Now you're locked up because you broke a law, because these laws carry some ambiguity so they can have wiggle room to do what they want to do. And when laws expand, they don't just target the guilty, they apply to everyone. And I need you to understand that. I need you to get this and drill it into your head. Laws apply to everyone. Well, Lumberjack, I'm a law-abiding citizen. Yes, there's plenty of law-abiding citizens. However, just because you're a law-abiding citizen doesn't mean the government is going to abide by the law. I need you to hear what I said. Just because you abide by the law doesn't mean the government is going to abide by the law. Rules for thee, not for me. Protection versus control is what we're looking at. Because once something is regulated, it does not shrink, it grows. And this is where we are sitting at this current juncture. We're sitting at a place in a crossroads where the government is continually, day after day, with every law, policy, code, statute that they create, legislation that they create, they're taking your rights and liberties. And you think it's okay because it's getting the bad guy. Well, what happens when it doesn't get the bad guy? That's the real question. That's what you have to think about, because there are innocent people that are taken up on charges all because the government sees them as a threat. Maybe you're not threatening enough, and that's why you don't see a problem with it, because it doesn't affect you yet. But there is a time that's going to come, where it will affect you and everyone around you, because the government is a ever-growing gluttonous entity, and it wants more and more and more. And eventually, when you can't give it more, it's just going to take you as well. But our next story here is a little bit more lighthearted, and actually something that's good. Lowe's rises high. Now, I'm pretty sure none of you have heard about this story. Actually, I'm almost positive you haven't, because you guys have been over inundated with Iran, Israel, war, boom, 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 bombs, all this other ceasefire. And most of you didn't even know that the ceasefire was only between the United States and Iran, not Iran and Israel. But I digress. It's because you don't read. I tell you don't read, and you still don't read to go make sure that I'm telling you something correct. You just hear the words out of my mouth and say, yeah, he sounds correct. No, go fact check me. Go double check me, because you're holding me accountable. I love correction, because to be corrected is to be in the perfect permissible will of God, right? But this particular story here, which, let's get it to switch here. It's being wonky. There we go. Lowe's raises high. There's a shift happening in the American workforce, and it's a beautiful thing. And companies are starting to respond to the shift. They're seeing this AI thing pop up, and Lowe's is getting ahead of it. Lowe's is committing $250 million to train 250 skilled workers over the next 10 years. So $1 million per person. They're training them to be plumbers, electricians, carpenters. And here's why. The demand is real. The demand is high. So Lowe's is raising to meet that standard. Hundreds of thousands of construction jobs are currently unfulfilled across the country. America is growing in some aspects, so the infrastructure needs to grow. You can't grow the infrastructure if you don't have the people to do it. AI can't fix a toilet. It can tell you how, but most of you are afraid. AI can't tell you how to fix a electrical panel. Really, it can tell you how, but you're probably going to blow yourself up. AI is not always right, correct? So the workforce gap is growing where people are moving towards more lucrative jobs that doesn't require them to do much. So there is a high demand and necessity for these people. And it's not slowing down. That cavern is getting wider and wider and wider. So Lowe's is doing something to try to shift that back. For years, the message was simple: go to college, take on debt, get a white collar job, and life will be good. You know the same old song and dance. Go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go be a nurse. Why would you want to be a firefighter? Why would you want to be this or that? Go be a NASA astronaut. That is not what makes this world goes around. Well, now a nurse does, but and a firefighter does, but really and truly, NASA astronaut, a doctor really doesn't, because if you stop eating the crappy food that they give you, you will stay healthy longer. But doctors are necessities, but they're not in high demand like the people that make the world go round, the blue collar workers that keep the machine lurching forward, without which the machine stops. But now that model is being challenged because of the AI factor. Artificial intelligence continues to expand, and many office-based jobs are being reshaped and replaced. So easy a monkey can do it. Well, now they have a computer-sized monkey taking your job. But there is one area that AI will never take over. Like I said, it's going to be these types of jobs. I happen to work in one of those fields. I will never see a computer climbing a tree and successfully taking it down without making too much of a fuss. I don't have to worry about that. But plumbing, it's not going to take over. AC work, it's not going to take over. It's not going to take over these areas. And CEO Marvin Ellison, who is a beautiful Christian man, he's not super outspoken about his faith because he wants to let his light shine through his actions, not his words. But he put it plainly. And he says AI can write emails, but it cannot fix your roof. It cannot wire your house. It cannot unclog your pipes. It cannot remove, and I'm adding this, the tree beside your house that's going to drop a branch on it if a storm comes. Can't do that. Lowe's is now funding this trade schools, community colleges, and apprenticeship programs just to make sure that we have the goals met. Now, of course, you know, he is a billionaire, so he's going to do things that help himself. So giving out the $250 million will guarantee and ensure that these people are going to come back and buy from Lowe's, thusly putting back into Lowe's pocket. But it's also helping you and I out. It's hard to find a good person at their job. Most people come in and do a shoddy job, get the cheapest wood or the cheapest wiring, and call it done. They slap it in there and call it done. And then your house is falling apart later, or your toilet is leaning to the side and leaking and running for hours and days, and then your water bill goes up. But moving people quickly into high demand careers is great, but without the people that keep the system going at the bottom, that builds the buildings that they go to work in, there's only going to be debt and sadness and depression, really and truly. This is more than a business move. This is a correction to the system. And for years, this country has moved away from hands-on work and now is being forced back into hands-on work, which is a good thing. Because if the power goes out, AI doesn't work. If the power goes out, the computers don't work. If the power goes out, the little buttons that you press don't work. If the power goes out, your phone stops working. However, you're going to need someone to be able to fix that power. That's people like us. You're going to need someone to be able to fix your toilet and make it go down, because toilets can flush without power, you know? So you're going to need someone that can do that. AI can't do that if the power's gone, because AI is gone. You cannot digitize everything. You cannot. You can do a lot of things, but not everything. But you cannot digitize a foundation of a nation. And the foundation of the nation was built off of the backs of the blue-collar workers, the hard workers, the plumbers, the carpenters, the builders, the construction workers. You cannot replace them, and they're trying as hard as they can. Some of you are married to these type of people. Some of you are brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, mothers and fathers to these people. Don't let the industry go to waste because you want to support AI. AI is not the end all be all. AI actually will honestly lead more to a downfall faster than anything. You should probably keep your head above the water to see what's coming over the horizon on that. Our next story here is something that's good. It's finally good to have good news in America. Now, the Lowe story is great news for America as a whole, but this is good for everyone in America because not everybody needs a plumber. Not everybody needs an electrician, not every day, but you do need gas every single day. And well, America is back in the driver's seat when it comes to oil. And now the U.S. refineries are going to once again be processing Venezuelan crude. What changed? Well, you saw what changed earlier when they came in and they swooped in and took Maduro out. But after years of sanctions, restrictions have been eased on Venezuela. Well, it's probably because we got rid of Maduro, but that's between you and I. Most people don't know that they got rid of Maduro because they live under a rock and they're probably just consumed with Iran right now. But new agreements are allowing Venezuelan oil to flow back into the United States where it was not before. And this was not random. The Gulf Coast refineries were built to process heavy crude. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is the reason why Venezuela has all this crude in the first place is because it's heavy crude. It's hard to refine. And that was the purpose of the Gulf refineries being built in the first place, right? So now that we've had these restrictions removed and the dictators removed and all this other stuff, we can get that flowing back this way like it used to. And Venezuelan oil is exactly heavy crude, and we have the machinery and tech to do that. That means more jobs. And that means lower gas prices eventually. Heavy high sulfur is very difficult to refine. It's very difficult. But for these systems that are in the Gulf, it's a perfect fit. They're built for it. Major companies are already moving in, like Valerio and Chevron, to make sure they're ahead of the game. They're importing millions of barrels and ramping up the capacity. Because if you've been following me, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I let you know that our reserves are almost about 45%. That means that we have less than a month, like 26 days of reserves. We're supposed to have about 40 days of reserves, but we had about 26 days of reserves left. And we couldn't survive if something big happened. And this war kind of sort of set us back even further. But this matters ultimately because Venezuela crude is often sold at a discount because it's hard to refine. And that means lower input cost, stronger refining margins, and more control over the supply chains, meaning ultimately for the American people, lower gas prices. And we do produce 80% of our oil and gas and all that good stuff right here in America. We very rarely need to go outside of our own country for our own oil. But now this is going to reduce the strain on our systems right here in the country, right? This is a good thing. But the problem here is there's a catch. There's always a catch. Venezuela oil's industry is struggling pretty damn bad. Refineries are operating at roughly 30% capacity in Venezuela right now. And infrastructure in Venezuela is weak, and maintenance behind that infrastructure is way behind the times. A long time and long-term stability issue is something that is being discussed over having this crude come in and out and us refining it and them being able to back themselves and stuff like that. They don't know if they're going to be stable enough. Maduro did a number on Venezuela, and he let a lot of systems fall low because he was more concerned about being a dictator than he was concerned about being a profitable and productive member of the world's global society, right? I hate saying that too close to, you know, the New World Order and the One World Order and stuff like that. I don't want that, but you can't not function on a global scale when you have that kind of power and resource because you can't use it all in your country. So you have to help others, and then they help you in return. But the real question is, Is this going to be a short-term win, or will America slip in and actually increase this so it can become a long-term win? Will we go in and spend money to revamp and bring their systems up to a higher capacity of functionality, or are we just going to get what we can get and pull out? I really hope that we stay in, because I feel that it will weld the partnership between the United States and Venezuela a little bit tighter, which has been strained because we took Maduro out. That was a great thing. You guys should. It took them less time to go in there and take that man out of office than it does to cook a hot pocket and burn your mouth and wait for that to cool off. They were in and out real quick, fast, in a hurry. But this is a strategy overall. Take advantage of the moment, strengthen your position, increase margins, expand influence, and your control over the oil flow in America and the world, so to speak. But this strategy also needs to be tightened up. So I will be bringing back more information about this as time goes on to see if America makes the right choices on building up the infrastructure in Venezuela to benefit us here in America long term, so we can beat this temporary shadow that looms over us with this particular move that's going on right now. It's still a beautiful thing regardless of how you feel about it, because it'll be nice to have these gas prices eased up, especially because summer is coming up. And you know how that goes. People start traveling and you want your costs low. You want your costs low, whether it's jet fuel to travel or whether it's your car. You want your prices low at the gas tank or gas pump, especially me, myself, being someone that travels a lot for work. So it's a beautiful thing either which way you look at it, and I'm here for it. I really am here for it. Ultimately, though, we got something serious to talk about. And I need to clear up a lot of rumors that are being spread around this. This story here is the streamlined draft. Now, this is about the drafts, if you know the military drafts, and it has been streamlined. And the reason why I call this streamlined draft is because they took out a lot of middlemen work to make it better for us. But the left, especially, and some of the dumb people on the right are saying this is going to cause us to all be drafted and all this other weird stuff. So let me clear up the noise here. The United States is not drafting anyone right now, first and foremost. Just because they're fixing the system doesn't mean they're drafting someone right now. Right? You got me? But it is just something that needed to become easier, because if you didn't register at 18 for the draft, you ran the risk of going to prison. And a lot of people don't know that, because you would be considered a draft dodger and also failure to comply as a citizen of the United States of America. But buried inside of a 2026 defense bill, a major shift set up that the draft registration is now moving towards being automatic enrollment as soon as you turn 18. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to sign anything. You don't have to wait to get your 18-year-old license to drive and stuff like that. You'll be good to go. No more signing up, no more forgetting, and the government can now pull data from federal systems and register individuals on its own. Bravo for the government doing something productive that actually works. But people are still worried. Who does this apply to? What if I'm disabled? Well, it's the same group as always. Men between 18 and 25, well, now 26, including citizens and many immigrants living in the United States. So if you're a green card holder and you're living in the United States and you're between those ages, yeah, you can be drafted as well, if that is the case. And how a draft would happen ultimately, so you can understand that this is not an active drafting. I need to reiterate that this is not an active drafting. They're just streamlining the process. But a draft can happen if something happens to the United States. Someone hits the homeland. Someone hits Canada. Someone hits Mexico. That's an enemy trying to encroach on the United States. A draft can happen. So, or if the United States declares full-blown war with this Iran thing, a draft can potentially happen. So you need to know that. The likelihood of that happening, not very high. We haven't declared war for a very long time. I will leave it up to you to figure out when the last time we declared war. I'll give you a little hint. It's only happened 11 times in the existence of the United States of America, and it's been a very long time since the last one. But Congress must approve this. This is not going through yet. President Trump can't unilaterally sweep it through. The president must authorize it, but Congress has to approve it. And there must be a national emergency. See? Now, one's getting drafted, but they are pushing this hardcore because it does need to be streamlined. It does need to be taken out of the hands of the people, right? And made to where the government, if they're going to draft people, they need to do all of the heavy lifting. They shouldn't depend on us and then jail us if we didn't sign up, right? Because some people forget. Some people don't even know that at 18 you have to sign up for the draft. They don't know how to do it. They don't know that getting your 18-year-old license automatically signs you up. They don't know these things. And now you do. If this is activated, the Selective Service uses a lottery system, being that if we are in an emergent situation, and the lowest numbers are called first, typically young men between 18 and 20. Who can actually serve? I'm glad you asked. Being registered does not mean you are immediately sent out, right? Got to kind of sort of be trained first, but there's some other prerequisites. Before the induction, you are evaluated. Oh my goodness. And one thing I agree with Pete Hegseth on greatly is that he thinks that we should be physically capable of being military ready. He thinks we should be mentally military ready. And he thinks that you should have some moral code that makes you military ready. Those three things are going to determine whether you can serve or not, whether you're drafted or not, right? Because just because you're drafted, if you're not physically fit, you're out of here. If you're not mentally fit, you're out of here. If you're not morally fit, you're out of here. So if you think that you're going to just get a gun and just go blow people up, yeah, you're out of here. They ain't going to play with that. They're not going to have those type of people in there because we do have to have some decorum about war, as weird as that sounds. Some qualify and some are deferred. Some are rejected entirely. So if you are a boy and you are named Chad, rejected entirely, you ain't got to worry about it. You ain't got to worry about it. The reality is there's a shift happening. And America is seemingly gaining some respect again for its armed forces. We're cleaning up the mess where we have people that think there's something that they're not. We're cleaning up the mess where people can be on SSRIs and all these other medications and being in the military and think it's okay. We're getting rid of that. So why not clean up the drafting process as well? This is not about the draft happening tomorrow. It's about removing friction so the system moves more smoothly. No signups, no opting out quietly, no gaps in the system. It's tightening it up. If you qualify, you qualify. If you don't, you don't. That's it. And why should you get to live in this country and have all of the freedoms that you have and not be willing to give back if needed? I know some men and women that have served that are old enough to be most of your grandmammies and grandpappies that would lay their life down right now, completely not physically fit. Some of them aren't even mentally fit. But they hold that code that once a Marine, always a Marine. Semper Fi, all day, every day. They hold that code. So why should you get to live in this nation and not be willing to fight and maybe potentially lose your life for this nation? So if the moment does come that the system is put in place and there something happens, then this will happen the way it happens. And the system will be prepared. Less friction means smoother operation. More friction means the system's going to break in some way, shape, or form. And you can't break if a draft actually happens. You need it to be smooth. And you can feel how you feel about that. I personally think everyone should serve at least 2 years. I don't even think it should be a draft worthy. I think everybody should serve 2 years in the military at 18. 18 to 20, you serve in the military. If you want to continue on, you could continue on. If you don't, you get the hell out and do you. 20 years old, you go to school for 4 years. You're 24, you graduated with a degree. And maybe if you serve for 2 years, you get some type of educational benefit where you can go to college for free. Free college, right? But you had to put in for it in some way, shape, or form. You just don't get it because you are American. The entitlement is wild, absolutely wild. And another good thing that Trump is doing in the Trump administration is the Trump RX. Medical corporations are being regulated. This is a good thing. We want regulations on corporations, right? We want this. There is a major change happening in the pharmaceutical industry. Yes, and I'm here for it. Trump is going to find a way, whether the $16.5 billion lobbying of Big Pharma works against him or not, he's going to find a way to make this work for the American people. And it's not coming from the government taking over the system. No. This is not an Obamacare moment. This is not a pay because you didn't play type system that Obama set up. This is not coming from a government takeover. This is from initiative under this push from the Trump RX. That's what it's been called. A major drug, like all really, they're because one does it, they're all going to end up following suit. But major drug companies are being told that there's a new sheriff in town and adjustments are happening on their prices. And this is a good thing. Companies like AbbVie, 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 and Genentech are rolling out plans to cap or reduce prescription drug costs. This is beautiful. Ro Khanna in 2025 said that when Trump rolled out this EO for the fourth time, because every time he rolls it out, Big Pharma's big lobbying money comes in and shuts it down. But I talked about in a segment earlier in 2025 about Ro Khanna saying, hey, just because Trump is rolling this out and it's a good thing, we should codify it and make it law right now. And nobody came to the table to do this. Well, Trump is finding other ways and avenues to do so. Water is going to find the path of least resistance. But who can be mad at lower prescription drug costs or the cost being capped out? That pill's not going to cost you $20,000, right? This is what you want, right? The people on the left, I can hear you now. Oh, Trump did it. I want the high prices. Give me the high prices because Trump did it. You're crazy, first and foremost. And your grandmammy and grandpappy need that medicine capped out because their Social Security and Medicaid and stuff like that aren't going to cover the prices, right? The focus is simple: lower out-of-pocket costs for Americans. How is that bad? I know the other day I was talking to someone and we were discussing that would you support Trump if he did something good? And the person said no. I was like, oh, it's crazy. Then I asked, I said, do you want Trump to fail? And he says, that's a hard question to answer. You shouldn't want any president to fail in any form, fashion, or way. And if you do, you're not American at all. You're probably crazy. I didn't want Biden to fail, and I didn't vote for Biden, but I supported him. I wanted him to do well. I didn't want him to fail. You'd be a fool to do so. But this is a good thing. Lowering out-of-pocket costs for you when you're going to the doctor and going to the pharmacy is a good thing, especially for insulin, which Trump did, and then Biden came in and undid and did it the way he wanted to do when prices went up $15 under him, where they were capped at $15. But I digress. This is not a tit-for-tat comparison. But insulin will be lowered, and other life-saving medications will be lowered. And why this is happening is that drug pricing has been a pressure point in America for years. Why is it that people in Canada get the same medication for $2-3? They can buy it out of pocket, and you're paying $600-700 and having to have your insurance pay 90% of it. It makes no sense. And now these companies are responding ahead of time, ahead of Trump RX, before the restrictions become stricter, before the regulations come down harder. Trump is actually using governmental force to beat corporations into submission, because corporations can't exist without the federal government. They're beholden to the federal government. You should probably read USC 283002 15A, which will let you know that the United States in itself is a corporation, and in order for corporations to do business in the United States, which is a corporation, they have to bend the knee to the ultimate corporation, being the United States government. They have to. And so they're thinking, hey, if we don't do something, this man's got 3 more years and he's just going to rain hell down on us and we're going to lose major profit margins. So we're going to get ahead of it and go ahead and cap things off or lower things ourselves so they don't have to and make things harder on us, right? Bravo. That is actually what the government is supposed to do to benefit the people. Instead of a direct government price control like Obama tried to do and many others tried to do before him, this approach means and leans on public pressure, making competition, corporate compliance. In other words, fix it now or Washington will do it for you. Not us, the corporations. Why there's a debate at all is crazy because critics are saying that's not enough. It's not enough. The companies are doing the bare minimum to avoid heavier regulations. Well, Trump and his administration will see that and adjust accordingly. Supporters argue that this is a smarter path, lowering costs without damaging innovation and handing control over to bureaucracies. Because we know when the government starts to take control of things, they become problematic. And it affects us and not the corporations because the corporations can afford to pay the fines. You can't. You'll just go to jail and not pass go, nor will you collect $200. This is about a balancing act, ultimately, between control and correction. It's a very fine line, because once the government fully steps in, it rarely steps back out. Actually, I don't think it's ever stepped back out. Once the government gets their claws on something, they hold on to it, and then they sink their teeth into it and ride it until they suck all the life out of it, right? When a corporation controls its own prices, the public feels that too. So you can't have the government controlling things and you can't have the corporations monitoring themselves because they're out to make money. So the real question is, who should hold the power over something people depend on? And I believe it should be the people. If you don't think so, maybe you're dumb because everything else is not working. Obamacare didn't work. Obamacare made them richer and made us poorer. I know I was fined several times under Obamacare for not having insurance because I could pay out of pocket at the time. Now, I'm not having to worry about fines. It didn't work. So we'll see if this avenue works because medical care is expensive, but the cost of medication after the fact trumps that tenfold. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just beating a dead horse, but I like the truth. I like the truth. And you know what? Our last segment here today, it took me by surprise when I saw this yesterday. And I heard rumors of it back in November that this might happen, and it actually happened. And it's disgusting. I mentioned Irina Zertutska earlier at the beginning of the show, and she's going to close the show out today, right? This beautiful young woman was taken for doing nothing. For doing nothing. I'm going to say it again. For doing nothing. She did nothing wrong. But we're going to talk about the case. And some eyebrows are being raised and questions are being asked. Is it mental fitness or a legal loophole that's being played here? And I'm going to go ahead and say it's definitely a legal loophole being played here. It's not about mental fitness. It's not. I saw this tweet, and I have to share it with you because it was a beautiful tweet. This is about Mr. DeCarlos Brown. Now, I'm going to go off script. Because this is something that I finally calmed down. It took me some time to calm down because I was hotter than a tea kettle when I first saw this, and it took me a long time to calm down last night. So now that I'm calm now, I can talk about it clear-headedly. Still very angry about that. Still very angry. But DeCarlos Brown, first arrest, capable. Second, capable. Third, capable. Fourth, capable. Fifth, capable. Sixth, capable. Seventh, capable. Eighth, capable. Ninth, capable. 10th, capable. 11th, capable. 12th, capable. 13th, capable. 14th, capable. 15th, incapable of standing trial. DeCarlos Brown, this vile, despicable nightcrawler, is incapable of standing trial. He's unfit to stand trial. He doesn't have the mental faculties to stand trial. Now, they say it's because he has schizophrenia and that he's incapable, according to the Constitution, to understand the charges brought up against him. But 14 other times he understood those charges. 14 other times he understood them. So if he understood them 14 other times, then why is he out? Why was he out a 15th time to take the life, or 14th time to take the life of Miss Zertutska? At what point does mental illness stop being a shield for a criminal? Personally, I think this man should be put in the electric chair and sent on to meet his creator. But when does it stop being a shield and start becoming a loophole? That's where we're at, because justice is being delayed over this. Justice is being delayed and denied over this. Now, I will give you the legalities, so to speak, that these people will be tested and tried. And if they're found fit at any point in time, they will go back and be served in court, and the case will carry on and justice will be served. But what is the likelihood of that? When people, from the verse I read earlier, from Ecclesiastes, when justice is not swift, then it is put in the hearts of those to do evil because they're not getting justice, right? How long is this man going to go through the mental system before they say he's fit, or they say he's unfit? Because if he says to be unfit, then the case could be dismissed. Could you imagine the uproar if this case is dismissed? It's crazy to me. There's got to be some truth. There's got to be some accountability, and there's got to be reality. And at the same time, we have to realize that they're not going to live inside of reality with this. This woman has lost her life to a 14 prior time convicted criminal. And Mecklenburg County in Charlotte, North Carolina allowed it. I talked about it when the situation happened back in September about how the system was set up. They had big corporations giving money to create a recidivism program, to which the judge who let this man out was also the person that booked the man in, and also the person that was over the program where he would be going into to be rehabilitated. So 3 times this lady was getting paid, and she didn't even go to school to be a lawyer. It's crazy. 3 times. This is disgusting. The Epstein situation, disgusting. How long before you stand up and say something do you need the system to keep shooting you in the foot, crapping on your face, before you get up and say, hey, look, we need some justice? We know that Mr. Bill Gates is on the list and did horrible things. There's videos. Why is he still walking free? We know that DeCarlos Brown took this woman's life. Why is he walking free? Hell, you remember George Floyd? George Floyd? Yeah. You know the Asian cop that was just standing there? You know he got 3.5 years in prison? Never touched George Floyd. Never did anything to assist or hurt the situation. 3.5 years. That's not justice. That's a crying shame. And this is the reality we're in right now. Do you ever notice nothing really hits until it hits close to home? I do. I realize it when it hits close home and when it's far. But do you? Can you hear about laws and policies in the system all day long and just glaze over about it? But then that one story stops you dead in your tracks. This is a story that stopped me dead in my tracks. I was hearing all this stuff talking about all this stuff, but nobody wanted to say anything or respond. They just wanted to move on to the next serotonin dump and the dopamine hit that they got from the next big story. I'm not moving on from this. Also, Roy Cooper is complicit in this. He denies any involvement, but he signed off on the programs that allow these people to get out. Over 3,500 criminals. He signed off on this. And now he's running for the Senate. He's complicit. Don't vote for that man. Don't put him in there because he's not going to do anything but make himself richer and create more places and spaces for criminals. Safe spaces, so to speak. But that becomes unsafe for you. Some guy ruins or uses AI to ruin people's lives. And suddenly we're talking about new laws. Someone can't even stand trial because they're mentally unfit. And now you're just sitting here wondering if justice is going to be served and when is it going to happen. That's the part that people feel. They see one thing happening and then something that's worse. They see nothing happening. That's how people feel. Not the headlines, the weight behind them. Because most of the people aren't thinking about the policies. They're thinking about, is this the system that we put in place that is supposed to work for us? Is it actually working? That's what they think about. Is protecting the people what the system is doing, or is it just reacting to the aftermath and the damage that's already been done? A Marine on the date that Irina Zertutska was killed, the anniversary of her death, Marine was stabbed in the neck in Wilmington, North Carolina. Now, Wilmington's a little bit more red than Mecklenburg County and Charlotte, but we need justice for this. You can't go around doing these depraved things and get away with it. Every time something breaks, something new gets added. A new rule, a new process, a new layer. But nobody ever asks, is it fixing anything? Or is it just stacking more crap on top of more crap? You got a broken system down here that just keeps letting criminals slip through the cracks that it creates, and nothing's fixed. And at some point, you have to stop and look at the real issue. And you have to start looking at the system itself. Because if it's justice that's taking too long, if no accountability is ever being held, then the lands are just shifting back and forth. And people are going to get tired of that. And then they're going to start acting out. If the responses always come after the damage, then you have a problem. And for most, the problem is that they miss the forest for the trees. I hope you're not one of those. I am your host, American Lumberjack, and it has been a pleasure to bring you this show today. I hope to see you next time.